And the problem is that I mean, Germany made the British fly their planes around. Wouldn't even let them fly through the airspace to bring the weapons, into Ukraine. So, that doesn't look like a very strong alliance, and that's what Putin's, looking for. He's looking for chinks in the armor, and he's finding them.
I don't see it. I don't know, man. For some reason I'm getting a feeling that there's gonna be some diplomatic solution, man. You know.
Oh, there has to be.
But
I
the
mean,
thing is, because look, man. I mean, we on Monday nights we don't usually whip out the chainsaw and go political. But I'll just say this, man. Just like in Libya when all that stuff happened, there was a lot of evidence on a lot of people there. There's a lot of reason to destroy your footprints. And let me just say, the Biden administration and his son, their footprints are all over that Ukraine. They've been making money over there for a long time. There's people over there that got the goods on them, man.
oh, not just them. The three amigos from the Trump administration. You had
Yeah.
Rick Perry and
Uh huh.
the ambassador, and what was the other guy's name? And then of course you had Igor and uh, I can't remember the guy's name, but those two characters, the mafioso kind of guys,
Dude,
had the nightclub over there and stuff, right? Yeah,
what
there's all
was
kinds of money changing hands there.
what country did Trump's wife come from? Because her father over
Which
there,
one?
well, the one now, because her father from over there, Trump used the same immigration laws that he was using to whip up fever in the conservative community. He used that same law to get her father and her mother in here as citizens for citizenship. What country did his wife come from?
I thought it was Czech Republic, but I have to look it up and make
Look
sure.
it up because he was a high-ranking communist boss, and
He was a major, right? I believe.
He
yeah,
came from Slovenia.
Slovenia. There you go, Doctor Rowe.
The back door. You left the back door open, right?
Oh,
Anybody can just
jeez.
sneak in this damn place.
I know,
Jesus.
and I turned the cameras off too, just because Oh, psh, there he goes. Pull over, man.
The camera's never up. It's like the
so
Playboy Mansion.
so so Slovenia, huh? Well, yeah. So he knows where all the bodies are buried in Slovenia, I'm sure. But what's really interesting is my family has friends from Armenia.
Now, some people think that Melania is like Palladian or something.
Could be. I mean,
And she's like an ambassador.
I
Dude,
think.
her arms are like twice as long as a normal person's. If you look at them,
Yeah.
her hands are like a foot and a half below her crotch, man.
And then the mundane conspiracy is that Trump rescued her from Epstein.
It's possible, or maybe he bought her.
Probably
Well,
bought her.
yeah.
He hung out with them with
Same
Epstein during that
difference.
time frame. There's a bunch of pictures of them together. I mean, with Epstein and Melania.
Hmm. Well, so her dad was a communist boss over there. So he, like I said, he knows where all the bodies are buried, and there's thousands and thousands of them, man. He buried thousands of people over there. He wasn't a nice guy back in the day. But I mean, hey, when the wall came down, I guess everybody's ideologies just went ahead and changed, huh? Just like that.
And yeah,
Walking,
there's talk that if Putin manages to get a friendly to Russia leadership in Ukraine, then they're going to spill the beans, of course, on the Bidens.
yes, yeah.
And the Bidens can't have that, So yeah, that's why we're rushing over to their
That's what
aid
I'm
right now.
That's what I'm saying, dude. That's what I think too. Because man, look, I mean, because look at you see Putin on the front of the Zodiac, with the fucking harpoon and shit, and he's
Plus, Odessa is a long time hub for human trafficking. Odessa. A lot of times, what they'll do is they'll fool the girls from the country into thinking that they're going to get work, like you're going to be maids or whatever, or you're going to be trained in some special la da da, and then
work on the
eventually
cruise ship.
meet a nice fellow, and then they get their passports taken, and the organized crime groups and folks wind up trafficking these girls, and they wind up being well trafficked all over the world.
25% of
Odessa, Ukraine.
25% of the prostitutes in the European Union come from the Ukraine. believe it or not. That's right. It's into the microcosm. Believe it or not. It's almost impossible to believe that Putin don't scare. You know what I mean? He's a statesman. He's not a thug. You know what I mean? He doesn't have, I mean, he can kick your ass, but he doesn't have to. He just come over and talk to you first. I don't know. Hopefully he pulls it off, man. I'd like to see peace in the world. You know, 8,700 troops he's gonna put on. Let me just detail it. So they went from a 10-day deployment down to a 5-day. But here was what I found real interesting. I want to run this by you guys real quick. I heard language today that I thought was interesting. They called it a front line. We're sending troops to the front line. So the front line, man, that would mean there would have to have been a confrontation for there to be a front line. What's the front line? Is there some place that they're gonna fight? They're like massing each other's borders, and they're gonna run across and yell and stab each other with spears and shit. I mean, what's gonna happen? Because what I heard a guy that reported from Ukraine last week, and he was saying that there was 100,000 Ukrainians at the border, and I heard precisely the same thing about that's how many Russians there were. And then I saw today that the Belarusian train systems had been hacked. So there seems to be some activity going on over there. But I also, what have you been hearing, Dr. Rowe? What's on your radar on this thing? Is this thing even pierced your veil at all? Or does this just look like a bunch of nonsense?
No, there is quite a bit of movement. There's something called Balak, which is it's a nickname for Vadim Lapev, which is a radical who was serving in the neo-Nazi Azov battalion. And reports are, and in fact, there's photographs of at least 6 former U.S. servicemen fighting on the Ukrainian side of the line of contact, which I guess would be the front line. And one of them is actually wearing the patch with the call sign Balak on his helmet. You can find that at the Revolution Radio Freedom _Slips Twitter page.
Mm-hmm.
There's a photo of that, and there's also images circulating of American mercenaries who have arrived in Donbass as instructors. And those are from coming out of today. There's a lot of movement in both Russia and Ukraine, armored movement, all kinds of stuff. There's missiles carriers, there's tanks, there's armored vehicles, fuel carriers, personnel. There's images and videos of trains, soldiers that are basically waving goodbye to their families, getting ready, for the long haul. And a lot of this stuff is actually on the Freedom _Slips Twitter page. So if you scroll down through there, you'll see. Interestingly enough, there's some parallel stuff that's going on on the African continent, where I guess there's been I guess you could call it a coup. Burkina Faso's army says it's deposed President Kabore and suspended the constitution, dissolved the government, and closed the borders. And that happened today. So they went on TV and said, "We're in charge now." So that's in Africa, and they mutinied. They said the soldiers mutinied following heavy gunfire around the president's residence on Sunday night in the capital of. Oh, that's an interesting name. Ouagadougou, sources said. Back to you.
Well, it's interesting because I had a girlfriend once who liked the African dance, and she took a dance class in Burkina Faso.
Is that anything like the sand walk?
Let me just say this, man. She looked just like Pamela Anderson, so she stuck out like a sore thumb over Burkina Faso. And then, no, check this out. And then when she got there, all of a sudden, she didn't realize that, there's no refrigeration or whatever. So there's like they're cooking this meat and there's like flies and shit all over it. She's realized there's no refrigeration, anything like this. She decides all of a sudden she wants to go home.
Oh, that reminds me. There's a place out there. There's a video of this on YouTube, and you can find it if you look up like mosquito burgers,
Mm-hmm.
and it shows like these kids, and they're like waving these pans in the air. Every once in a while, you get like these swarms of mosquitoes that are so thick they're like black clouds. There's so many of them, and so the kids they and everybody gets these pans and they start waving them in the air, and eventually, of course, that collects a whole bunch of mosquitoes, and they mash them together like a patty. And then they literally barbecue these things. They cook these mosquito patties. They mash them like a hamburger patty. And you can see them all, they're eating them up like, man, they're a treat. It's fried mosquitoes.
Don't tell Bill Gates. Don't tell Bill Gates or Klaus Schwab, otherwise that's what we'll be eating. Hey,
man, and they I consider it a delicacy, I mean, because it's not every day when the mosquito swarms come around. So you got to catch them while they're flying around in the air.
Yeah,
it's like the summer treat.
Yeah, well, it's interesting that the experience that my my girlfriend had when she was coming back just all by herself. Like I'm just saying it was an interesting experience for her. So I can only imagine what it must be like to be in Africa. In different places. I mean, it's different everywhere you go. It's not always the same, but I mean, think our image of what we think when someone says Africa, it's what you think.
It's pretty wild there. Yeah. I knew some friends in Liberia, and guys, the kids are running around there with guns, and it's just lawless. And you go too far out in the bush, I mean, you literally can get eaten by a hyena or a lion, or or a roving gang of whoever. I mean, it's just off the hook.
Did you ever see the video of these militia members somewhere deep dark Africa? They're all sitting around drinking beer or whatever. I don't know what they're drinking, but there's a monkey, there's a chimpanzee
with a gun,
and the guy gives him an AK-47. And the monkey starts shooting everybody. And everybody's jumping out of the way. It's a trip, man. Mine's Jimmy. It's into the microcosm. It's the bottom of the break time. So we'll be right back after a word from our sponsors.
It happens more often than we can imagine. In my case, I was sitting at home, and out of nowhere, I just started feeling uncomfortable. Then it got worse, and I started perspiring. I tried to ignore it, but I waited too long. The chest pain came as we were driving to the hospital emergency. I felt my life clock begin to tick. I barely survived. There was lots of damage done to my heart. What do I do now? I was lucky. I took a leap of faith and tried a 7-herb formula with hawthorn, garlic, cayenne, and more called Extendivite. Herbs have been used for thousands of years to keep us healthy. If you're not using Extendivite as a preventative supplement, maybe it's time to start. To order, call 1-877-928-8822 or visit heartdrop.com.
Extend your life with Extendivite.
Monday through Friday, 10 p.m. Pacific, immediately following Clyde Lewis and Ground Zero. We're going to be here instead of Beyond Zero every night, starting at 10 p.m. So we're super stoked to have you. We're glad that you stuck around. We want to invite you to stay a little longer because I think we got something planned that will probably be a wild ride, because whenever Dr. Rose shows up, it's always going to be a wild ride, isn't it, Epic Journeyman?
Always.
It's Aftermath FM. It's King Buffalo. What's up, Solos? Oh, you know what? We got the chat room back over there on Aftermath FM. I'll be heading over there directly. King Buffalo. Loam. You can find it on YouTube. It's a great album. The Burden of Restlessness is the title of this album, but the cut's Loam. I like it. But it's talk radio, so I have to chill.
You know, Jimmy,
Yes,
you
sir.
were talking about Africa earlier.
Yeah.
I, in my earlier days, my line of work took me in paths of many different interesting folks, including members of Al Qaeda and actually Somali pirates and child soldiers from Eritrea. But I was having a conversation with a couple Somali pirates one fine afternoon, and they were telling me that the reason they became pirates was because the mafias and other nations mostly other nations would pay mafias like East European mafias and stuff to bring shiploads of garbage and dump them. And since Somalia has no real official government, there's no navy, and their waters are fair game to the rest of the world to just dump their trash. So the locals of Somalia got pissed off, and rightly so, that somebody's coming to their front yard beach and dumping their garbage. So they decided, look, we're going to do something about it ourselves. And that, my friends, is why we have Somali pirates. It's not because they're out there, it sort of evolved because they found that, well, it's also lucrative, but there's no reason for somebody to come that close to the Somali shore and dump their trash. And that's what started the whole thing. And I actually believe that the sincerity and the tears in their eyes when they were telling me the stories about how they found all this garbage and dead fish, because all they did was fish. The Somalis just got by fishing. That was their, the locals, that's how they made their food and stuff. They would go out and catch fish, and now they're being polluted and everything, and they can't do anything. So what, you killed all our fish. Well, now we're going to take your boats. So there you go.
Well, you know what? I live in Santa Cruz, California, and every weekend, millions of people come over here from all over the place. They want to go to the beach. You know what they do? They do the exact same thing as that. Do you know how much trash people leave behind, ladies and gentlemen? Like, it's like, one guy leaves a paper cup, another guy leaves a can, somebody drops a straw, the newspaper gets away or whatever. Man, beach towns are special places, but, they can be crowded and unruly on the weekends, man. Because you get people coming in, and so the thing is, they don't realize, hey, you're someplace. To them, it's like an amusement park or whatever. You know what I mean? But speaking of amusement parks, now going back to Africa, now Africa's real. We weren't necessarily, thinking about this, but now that you brought it up, Africa's pretty interesting, man. There's a lot of interesting things going on in Africa, isn't there?
Number one, it's a lot bigger than you think.
I know.
The African continent, and it's just that many countries, it's a continent, is huge. And there's a lot of it that's basically untouched, unexplored by modern man. They have resources up the wazoo, diamonds, rare earth materials, ancient technology that's yet untouched, from way back when. And just a lot of interesting cultures that we don't even know anything about, really. Plus, animals and things, and just all of the flora and the fauna. Yeah, I think Africa is one of the last untouched areas of the planet that really,
And it's interesting because it always seems to be used as some sort of I want to call it a petri dish almost.
Yeah. Oh yeah, like the pharmaceuticals. They'll go over there. Let's try this one out on the group here.
No one in their right mind is ever considering, they're sitting there at their, on their back porch thinking about someday they're going to move somewhere. No one thinks about Africa, man. I'm going to move to Africa.
Well, I got to say, my mom did when I was little. She'd be all, there's children starving in Africa.
I know. Well, there probably is.
They got plenty of mosquitoes.
If there's
They're
well,
eating mosquito burgers. Man.
hey, if there's more children than there is food to feed those children, then children will be starving. You know what I mean?
remember,
I'm just saying, if it's that whole having more children thing is basically a result of people dumping bags of rice on villages, where they get a bunch of food, but they're completely and utterly dependent on those bags of rice, man, because their population grows to absorb the food source. Go ahead, sorry.
Do you remember Sam Kinison?
Mm-hmm.
And he did a skit one time. He's like, these people in Africa, they're starving, they're skinny, they're in the desert, right?
Mm-hmm.
They're sitting in the desert starving, and you know how you solve that hunger? Or they're sitting in the desert. You move where the food is, stupid. There's nothing here. This is sand. It's a desert. Nothing grows here.
It's true. Well, you know what, man? I mean, you couldn't talk about Africa without pointing at South Africa, for example, as a special part of Africa, in a sense of antiquity, and also with the current political situation there it's almost like a Netflix series or something, some scary series, starring butchers with machete coming to take
it. There was a video I saw today of a South African cop going crazy with other cops. He was using like judo and karate moves on him, and the other cops had to subdue him. And like he fell down on the ground. He was starting to have like these weird fits, and they were saying he had some sort of crazy manic episode. He just
like the
went
Kingsman.
super crazy on him, yeah. And it was a big guy too.
Who's the dude who was all hot on South Africa Epic? Was it Michael Tsarian? Which there was one
Tellinger.
Tellinger. Yeah, man. What was his big
Butu.
Yeah, what was his
called.
Yeah, oh yeah, he's super cool, but what he in a lot of other ways besides this. But
Adam's calendar was the thing that he's famous for, those rocks that make the sounds are tuned. And then they found this place called Adam's Calendar, where it's supposedly with the oldest site, known that has this megalithic. Yeah, but is it pronounced Ubuntu? Is this idea that we go in a society based on people's strengths, what they're talented at, and make communal villages based on that trade with each other and get rid of money, basically. Yeah.
Yeah, he's cool.
He ran for president of South Africa.
Yeah, he's a good dude, man. You know what? I actually when I was at that contact in the desert, and I was selling books for Brad Olson's publishing company while he was doing his thing. I was sitting next to him, and I should get a hold of him and see if we can get him on, man. Because
we had him on. I was on with him last year. I think it was in November or October.
Do you know him?
Not really well, but I.
All right. Well, I don't want to put you on the spot, but hey, maybe we can get him on a Monday, have him come on, because I really think
we probably could. Yeah, I think we could do that. I mean, maybe I could arrange it.
That'd be kick-ass, because you know why? Is because it's not just this South African thing, but it's what Epic's talking about, because he's got this idea to bring everything back local. And it's pretty sweet to bring the small towns back.
I agree with it on local scale. Some of these ideas, I don't think they would really work on a larger scale. Yeah,
No.
But on local scale, smaller scales, sure, absolutely, community kind of stuff.
Yeah, sort of like a pod system where you have these little pods that all intersect with a main pod. And sort of distribution goes out of that, sort of,
like prisons.
Yeah, like exactly. But I don't know. It sounds like the Venus Project. Remember this Venus Project?
Oh yeah, I remember that definitely. Was that Fresco, wasn't it?
Yeah,
Jacques Fresco.
Mm-hmm. Well, he's a futurist with an idea, but it was interesting, because when he originally came out with the Venus Project, it was after the Zeitgeist movie,
Yeah.
that really got a lot of traction, and so Alex Jones was like milking the zeitgeist dude fame, and having him on all of this. And then as soon as the Venus Project came on, Alex Jones said they were Luciferians and they were Satanists or whatever, and he never had him on to talk about it. So I never even, I never went and looked, what
I know that they were trying to build like a little town, like a little prototype community. And I mean, it'd been around for a while. And I remember when I was looking into it, I don't know if it was in Florida or something, but I saw some pictures of it, and it had been around for a while. And I remember getting the feeling like, it looked like something that was built in 1960s Star Trek-ish mode.
Yeah.
And, like, yeah, you guys got
Biodome.
I was like, it's time to upgrade, folks. So the plastic is out. We got to move on to, some sort of alloys and space age materials. But yeah, I like the idea of it.
Yeah, well,
but I got the impression it was almost abandoned.
It's resource based.
Yeah, which is a Star Trek kind of idea.
It is. I mean, did you see?
Technocracy.
Yeah, technocracy, exactly. Epic Journeyman.
Communism.
So it's a future, but it's a conceptual future. Just like seasteading is also becoming like, we had talked about a couple years ago. Seasteading is starting to become a thing, man.
I had an idea when I was back in the 20th century. I had sort of designed these sort of prototype idea for these modular, like, raft pod things that you could build like a building on. So you'd have, and they could connect. So you could float these things and tow them out in the water to any place you wanted to, and literally have a community that floats on the water, and all these little pods connect together, and you can make floating cities that way.
That sounds really cool, man. I back about, I don't know, 8 years ago, I was doing these wind generators with high power alternators, and I got a sailboat so I could test it. And then in the course of that year where I was living on that sailboat, eventually I quit testing the thing and just started living on sailboat. You know how that goes when you're in the harbor, man. But anyway, the point is when I was doing that project for myself, I realized that you could probably just take just about any crappy boat that you could get at an auction, at the harbor. You can just go to harbor when the economy goes bad. First thing that people stop paying for is their boat at the harbor, and then the harbor just takes their boats. So you can go down and get boats for almost nothing. So you could convert them, though. I mean, you could easily put, like, if you got yourself like a cabin-style cruiser or something like this, you could easily convert a lot of that over to electric.
When I was living in Holland, just outside of Amsterdam, there is a little community, and they're doing basically just kind of like that. They're converting not just houseboats and stuff, but they're going one step further. They're creating their own little, like, prototype kind of pod houses.
Yeah.
And these things.
Yeah.
Not to an industrial scale like I was thinking of cities on the water, but they have their little towns that are floating on little lakes and things out in Holland.
We had Zoltan on, and he was running for president, the futurist president candidate. But his thing is seasteading, and we were trying to get him to come back, but then who grabbed him, Epic? Did you say Harvard got him or something?
Oxford, yeah.
Oxford.
He went to Oxford.
There's a guy that lives on like an oil platform or something. There's a couple of places. I know that there's a place off the English coast out in Britain that it's not used as an oil platform anymore, but there was a guy, I think, that was living on it, and he was going to claim it. He tried to claim it like as a sovereign nation.
Yeah, you can. That's the whole thing. That's the whole thing, is that maybe
which is scary, though, on an oil platform.
Yeah, well, I mean, it is in a way, but I mean, these other ideas are really super cool, man. And I don't know if you've seen them. They don't work for radio, so I can just kind of describe them instead of trying to dig up a video to show you. But imagine something similar to a cruise ship. Not necessarily giant cruise ships, but just a regular sized cruise ship. It's outfitted with glass and all this, and they're growing vegetables and stuff there, and they're staying in the sun, obviously, and they're growing and producing these vegetables. They float around, and then they just roll up into port somewhere, and they do commerce, and then they float away and go grow some more vegetables. And meanwhile, they're catching fish and everything else. You see what I mean? So they're feeding themselves. It's completely self-contained. It's basically floating around. And then they have these other ones where they'll be sort of stationary, but as long as it's outside the 17-mile limit, it can be another country. So it could have its own constitution, its own laws, its own immigration, its own everything about it. So it's just like we talked about this Asgardia, right? Because it's a satellite. It's up there, and if you're a citizen of it, you're a citizen of Asgardia, but you're just down here with your passport, on Earth. But you go over to the to the council.
There's I forget where I wanted to say it was in the Red Sea or somewhere very close, but somewhere in the Middle East. Maybe if I get a map, I can find it. There is a group of ships that are stuck. I think I don't know if they're still stuck. They've been stuck for the story goes. I'm looking for the story that for a while. The story is that they were stuck for a while. I imagine that they eventually got out, and I think it was a long time, like over a year. It might have been a few years, where they were literally in a war zone, and it was like a couple Russian ships, a Romanian ship, a German ship, a French ship, but and there was something about it. Maybe you guys have heard of the story that they were stranded and they sort of band together. All these ships kind of docked to each other, and they were cooperating to survive. But there was no way that these folks could leave. Did you ever hear about that story?
Epic Journeyman's an old.
I have not. I'm gonna have to look into that one. I'm looking at it right now.
He's an old sea dog. He's an old salty dog.
Yeah, I'm surprised. Actually, that's right up my alley.
And it's what's happened on the ocean. He knows about it. No, he is one of the people that can actually help right now, aren't you, Epic Journeyman? You are the man underwater, are you not?
The Yellow Fleet.
When they call the man, they call Epic Journeyman. They say, "Man, get the man here."
Okay, I got it here. It was from 1967 to 1975. The Yellow Fleet, when the Suez Canal was blocked for 8 years, forcing 14 ships to remain stranded on the water. Following the Six-Day War between Israel and the Arab countries, Egypt had blocked both ends of the Suez Canal, blocking 14 ships on the canal at that time for 8 years. 8 years. I'm trying to see if it shows the 14 ships on what nations. I think there was a Chinese ship. A German ship served as a church. A British hosted soccer matches. The Polish ship served as a post office. I got an article here. I'll post it in our thingy. And the Egypt finally started to clear the heaps of debris and landmines and old vessels to open the canal, but it took them 2 years. And on June 5th, 1975, the canal was reopened. So for 8 years, there was also like a Norwegian, I think, ship or something there.
Mm-hmm.
I'll put it in our chat. You guys can check it out if you want.
It's wild, man. It's wild. The ocean is a scary place, man. And you're in your little boat on the ocean floating around.
Scary, yeah, man. It's intimidating, especially when you see these sailors that go out with their live streams and they're like out in the middle of the ocean. And I mean, it's bad enough when it's like nice and calm and there's nothing around, but can you imagine when the waves are? You just
Well, man, I'll tell you what. I just got in the new chat room over on Aftermath.fm. You can go over there you can get in the chat room right on .fm. So head on over aftermath.fm. Who's your daddies in there, man? What's up, Robot AI? I'm gonna see who else is in there. FL Skunk Ape. Bunch of people. I'll call you guys out. Relaxed Citizens over there. Popular Creature. Sweet. Solos, of course. Of course, the Solos is there. Dark Wolf. Right on. What's happening, Dark Wolf? Good to see everybody over there. So, are we gonna dig up some Dr. D. Giordano at the top of the hour and talk about some of these
James Giordano. We could, yeah. Oh, I guess there was a U.S. ship there too.
Was there now? Well, I don't know.
I was just reading through it. It's interesting. They had their own Olympics and everything. Made their own postage stamps, handcrafted postage stamps.
So they were Bulgaria, Czechoslovakia, France, Poland, Sweden, West Germany, the United Kingdom, and the United States. And it was codenamed the Yellow Fleet.
The Yellow Fleet.
They were just stuck there because the Suez Canal got blocked on both sides from the war. Yeah, that'd suck. Can you imagine? Like,
Did you notice? Did anybody look around and notice that our country's being dismantled immediately right next to us? We don't even realize it. That we're just being like this dude. That's. I mean, I'm literally I'm in awe of the mind control that's going on right now, literally, because that guy up at the current resident of the White House, he's not running anything, man. Look at that guy. Look at Putin and look at that guy, and then just think.
Did you hear Jen Sakai slip up?
Yes.
So we're working for Biden, President Biden.
Well,
the big news was his mic slip up today, right? When he cusses out the Fox reporter.
Yeah. And then it looked like
he had it coming, by the way, but he apologized.
Right after he says that, like he says, like this stupid son of a bitch, he looks at the microphone, and his eyes like, oh shit, did I just say it on mic? And then the camera cuts away, but you can hear him go. You listen carefully. He's like says that. Then he looks at the mic like it was on. Oh no. Stupid idiot, man.
Man, you know what? I didn't realize that all these people were looming around there like vultures. Susan Rice, all these people. Yeah, man, they all have a vested interest in burning the file cabinet known as Ukrainians.
Oh, by the way, did you guys? I caught the tail end of it, but there was a 5-hour plus, well, like 5.5 hours, meeting with Senator Johnson and like Dr. McCall and all these doctors and the lawyers.
The crazy guy, the senator, the crazy senator from Minnesota or wherever it is, Johnson.
Not the one that thought that Guam would tip over.
Yeah, there's the crazy one. Yeah.
But this regular guy who's actually, and they were exposing. They had nurses and from America's Frontline Nurses, they had the doctors, they had the lawyers, and they all got to sit there and take 5 hours to tell stories about what's going on. And they went over all kinds of stuff. And if this doesn't highlight, what the hell is really going on, I don't know what does. But I would recommend everybody check it out. You can probably still find it on YouTube if you Google like Senator, sort it by things posted today, and then put in like Senator Johnson, pharmacist, or like something like that. Just use your imagination. I actually think I can dig up the link if guys want, but I think it'll be making the rounds because at least little excerpts from it in the next few days will be coming out because I think it was a major deal, and I can't see now how this can be ignored. So which is also a little bit scary because when you have information like this coming out, then what's going to be used as the distraction, and they're saying, oh, everybody's getting ready for war, and are they going to use something as a distraction? And one more thing I want to ask you both. what do you think of that volcano that went off recently?
I saw this video, that high definition video.
Yeah.
Looks like rods from God, dude.
Yeah.
I mean, you can see
I saw that.
I don't know,
Yeah.
Allegedly.
It sure looks weird. It looks interesting. But I saw the video, and you see something. There's an object.
There's an object in it, and the thing is the minute it strikes the water, there's instantaneous combustion.
Yeah.
So it's interesting. It's not like it didn't look like a detonation to me. It looked like some kind of.
Yeah, it didn't do normal Krakatoa.
No.
Would you expect a bunch of debris flying up or Mount St. Helens kind of thing? It's like an impact. Yep.
Yeah. It's like it went. It was like there was a cavitation.
Well, it was a real volcano, but they knew the volcano was there. But I mean, if you're actually targeting something like that from space, I'm not saying that's what happened, but absolutely, you get something that kind of velocity hits Earth at 30,000 miles an hour or whatever, right?
You think you think somebody went Pacino and went, "Say hello to my little friend," and they just dropped
a demonstration?
Yeah.
That's what I was thinking, like a demonstration. Yeah.
Now,
okay, Putin.
I'll tell you what.
You have that over there. We got this over here. You may have your tsunami torpedoes. We got this, and we can use that anywhere.
Yeah, but check this out, man. I'll tell you guys what. I saw this letter. All right. I never brought it to the table, because it was unverifiable. But it was just interesting the way this person put forward some stuff, and he basically said, he's like, he goes, man. This is me and a bunch of my friends, and we're all in the military. And he goes, I could just toast your ass right now from the sky with a beam. Just beam right down on your house and burn your skull. Make you forget who you were, man. But I mean, it's some guy's story about what he can do because he has a position, in the military or whatever. I'm just saying maybe it's fiction or science fiction. I don't know, but Dr. Dude.
Well, the drones really do have them. I mean, the HELADS laser is on those Predator B and Predator C upcoming unmanned aircraft, and they really do have lasers that can blast you from 50,000 feet and kill you. And not just you, but your car and everything else. Yeah.
There's something called, it was actually when I was at TRW, there's something called THEOL, Tactical High Energy Laser. And it was, at that point, this was back in, let's say, 1999, 1998. This thing could be mounted on a truck or on a plane or on a platform, and it would burn through an engine block in short order. It was used to zap missiles or things in the sky, but tactical high energy laser, and it was a directed energy device, and it was being developed back in the 90s by TRW as a defensive weapon, but of course, depending on how narrow the beam was, you could have it a pinpoint, so that literally from a satellite you could zap someone, or you could widen that beam so that from a satellite you could cause, strip fires in the forest.
Exactly, Mundo. Well, I mean, what about if you excited a, there's people put forward the exciting of a particular meter that's on the side of your house might cause fires as well. But what's interesting about those fires in Northern California, because there's some supposition from a lot of people about what happened up there. It was interesting because up in Sebastopol, they had sent out these letters to the customers saying that they had this new solar energy platform in space. PG&E did, Pacific Gas and Electric. They had a new solar energy platform in space, and they're going to be testing the new collection station. And they were going to be beaming down some energy from their panels they had flying around up in space. So it was right around that same exact time that you saw those fires happen. I mean, I'm sure it was coincidental, you know. I mean, that was the year that cannabis was going legal, and a lot of those
Kind of like burning ants with a magnifying glass.
kind of, exactly, kind of, yeah. So I mean, you know, well, Dr. D. Giordano, when we come back, I think. Dr. Rowe, why don't you send me, if you wouldn't mind, his greatest hits. There was one we were talking about at one point, but I had this other whistleblower who said he was an operator of a system that could look out of a person's eyes and see what they see like a movie. And that
Yes.
I forget that guy's name. Maybe you remember him. I don't know. I'm gonna go to break, so maybe you can remember Epic German. I don't know if you can remember that dude, but try to remember if you can. If you can't, it's all right. It's okay. It don't matter anyway, 'cause there's plenty more where that came from.
Who am I remembering that?
What's that?
Who am I remembering?
It's Aftermath FM. It's into the microcosm.
After about a month of Extendivite, I don't know what it is about the circulation factor, I was able to increase the weight, increase the amount of sets I could do. It has to do with the oxygen getting to the blood. You should market this as an athletic performance. And I don't change anything about my diet or anything. I just thought, this is amazing. Bilberry extract is got something called resveratrol in it, which is the same stuff that you get from red wine. It's also good for eyesight. And I was reading that the Royal Air Force during World War II would give their pilots bilberry jam so they could have better night vision stuff. This is amazing.
To order, call 1-877-928-8822. That's 1-877-928-8822, or visit our website at heartdrop.com.
Extend your life with Extendovite.
Monday through Friday, 10 p.m. Pacific. Immediately following Clyde Lewis, Ground Zero. It's the after party. Underground. The alternative to the alternative. It's not your granddaddy's late night. No. It's in the microcosm.
Got to be kidding, man, cause in the prime meridian, ripping it in a stick with the wickedness flow. Swinging low on my chariot, pick it up and I'm scared. Turn up the fader and I push it the most. I know you're bumping and loving it and it's jumping with the elevated feeling, put you in the Rambo. You got the Jones in your bones, make yourself out tone. We bring a message that you never should love. Said she want my ganja. Said she wanna pop my earth. Said she want
That's the elevators. Meridian. Only 362,000 people have played this video. Tell you right now, man, you throw that on, you're going down the road feeling fine, aren't you, Dr. Rowe?
Oh.
Of course, man. You're heading down the road, you throw in the elevators, Meridian, you know? You just drop the top, bro, hit the gas, and you're out. You know, I'm just going. You know what? Hey, did you guys realize that they discovered the Salton Sea is infested with rare earth minerals? Did you see that?
No, I did not.
You should take a look right now. The Salton Sea now has become one of the biggest finds in modern history for rare earth minerals.
It smells god awful.
Well,
know that.
I know. Have you ever gone in and floated around in there?
No, I've been in the Dead Sea. Not the Salton Sea.
You get real buoyant, you know, because there's so much salt in there.
They tried to make a resort back in like the 50s or something in the Salton Sea, and for a while, for like several years, it was nice, but too much salt and the desert and the upkeep, it didn't work.
That's a dangerous place as far as the earth and the earthquakes go. That place there is dangerous. If there's ever a major, because there's a way that the ocean can come up in there.
Yeah, there is a. Excuse me. There's an underground manufacturing facility down in that area, and there is supposedly some underground submarine activity. Maybe Epic Journeyman might know something about that.
Is there
submarines? Oh, we're at
tunnels underneath the desert in Southern California.
Oh yeah. The sub bases over there.
China Lake.
Mm-hmm. China Lake, man.
I worked at China Lake when they were doing the Aurora. I didn't work on the Aurora, but they had them flying by. Everybody claimed it had an unusual contrail. It was like spiral, and supposedly people had seen it numerous times. On flatbeds and stuff, right? This weird airframe. That was back in the 80s, man. It was a long time ago. That thing's still around.
When I was at TRW, I got to go to Yucca Mountain. And they were like, it's a nuke storage facility. We're going to put nuclear waste. And they were building it. And it was interesting because when I went down there, first off, it was totally classified. There's no comms in or out inside the mountain. And I noticed that it didn't seem like they were preparing this to be a place where they would store nuclear waste, because they were moving in these laboratories and these offices and, and living quarters and like mobile apartments in these like cubicle, sea containers and, these self-contained, but they're meant to be there permanently. And I started scratching my head, and I was talking to one guy about it, and who I was with, more like my partner or whatever, I guess you call it. And he's like, don't ask questions, and just do what you're doing. Just don't say anything. Just don't ask. Because they're going to store nuclear waste here. And I'm like, okay. He's like, okay, yeah. He was always nervous about everything, but to this day, that place, man, I tell you, that's not a storage facility. There's like some laboratory shit going on down there. Really crazy place.
It's Black Mesa from Half-Life, right?
Yeah.
It's,
This whole area is weird down there in Southern California. Chocolate Mountains, supposedly under the Chocolate Mountains, there's supposed to be a lot of gold, and that's why it was a gunnery range for a long time, because I
had UFO experiences there, actually. Chocolate Mountains, yep.
Yeah, what better way to keep people out?
I'll tell you one thing, man. It's a never-ending battle for truth, justice, and the American way, isn't it? The battlescape, the brain, neurocognitive science in military intelligence operations with Dr. James Giordano, PhD. What did they call him? Did they call him Dr. Doom?
I don't know if it's Dr. Doom, but that was Ed Dames, Major Ed Dames.
Yeah, I know they called him.
It's not the Pizza King, Giordano.
Well, listen,
were like,
you know what they're saying, that Ed Dames was right because of the shot.
the kill shot.
Yeah, exactly. But meaning the injectable that's going around right now.
Not the sun.
They're trying. Yeah, exactly. They're trying to say the kill shot. You know, that's what it is. But this is an interesting presentation. There's a particular piece of it that I'm interested in, and I'm gonna have to scroll through to get the frame of the presentation that'll get me to the audio that I want you guys to hear on Aftermath FM here in the middle of the night, immediately following Clyde Lewis, 10 o'clock p.m. Pacific time on the Santa Cruz Mountains. We actually got a Bay Area strong arm, and then we got our flank covered over there on the island with Epic
Jimmy.
Journeyman. Yes, sir.
Jimmy, is there something in the Santa Cruz Mountains we should know about?
There
I
is. You know,
Bigfoot stories, underground bases. Come on, there's got to be something.
there's something. I mean, there's a why would
All the damn vampires.
Well, let me ask you this question, man. Yeah, there's that. There's the vampires that everybody saw the movie. But beyond that, there's something called the mystery spot, which I'm sure you're familiar, where
I have been there. Yeah.
where gravity seems to not work the way it does every place else.
I'll tell you one thing. I got followed by a bunch of cars, and they all had a bumper sticker that said mystery spot on them.
They were gang stalking you.
Yeah, it was the weirdest thing because I'm like, I noticed them, and I'm like, wait a minute. They all have the same bumper sticker.
Did they all have 60s? Did they all have 60s wraparound sunglasses on, looking at you real hard?
It was just odd, man. They were all junky cars, dude. They were all like POSs, and I'm like, these people are following me. And then I started noticing, like, you know, they all have the same bumper sticker. Yeah, there's something up to it. It was creeping me out. Yeah, I remember that.
It's interesting. Now, there's another place up here. I mean, now you ask yourself, what's in the Santa Cruz Mountains, right? It's nothing. Redwoods, that's it. There's hardly any houses. You can't hardly build on most of the land in the mountains because it's you know, it's
Forest,
mountainous.
yeah,
Yeah,
protected.
yeah, and it's just you know you can't. So, but what are the
And
odds?
sounds familiar growing up there in the forest canopy, right?
What are the odds? There's a Lockheed Martin up here.
Yeah, they got an underground facility up there somewhere.
They definitely have a facility up there. And there's more than one story about seeing black pyramids flying around up there. You know, because there's a lot of people, friends of mine that, you know, go up in the mountains and stuff, you know, they hike around. And like Epic was saying, back in the old days, they used to grow weed up in the trees. And they would put their plants up in the trees, and then they monkey around up there on ropes with gallons of water watering them shit. Believe it or not, ladies and gentlemen, on Into the Microcosm. But that is true. In any event, the point is lots of people, hikers, bikers, you know, people that are around. It's just completely silent. It's not like you're looking at the bottom of a triangle, like you hear people say triangles. There's no triangles. This is
Santa
like,
Cruz Mountains were a magic place, though, for me, even when I was a kid, because I remember going to a summer camp in the Santa Cruz Mountains, and it was really cool. I mean, I got in a fight and everything, and I wanted to go home after like 3 days, but then after that, and I got in a fight and I beat the kid's ass and everything was cool. Then I really liked it.
well, yeah, I mean, it is a magic place. I mean, there used to be a big. There's a place up here called the Brookdale Lodge. If you're somebody that's into the hauntings, the ghosts. If you like,
Yeah, I love that stuff.
yeah, well, the Brookdale Lodge, well, they've remodeled it, but it used to have, You go into this place, and literally there's a creek that runs through the restaurant. All right? And this is on Highway 9 that used to be a dirt road that went from the mountains down to the ocean, and they would chop down giant redwood trees and go down Highway 9. It's now Highway 9. They would take it down Highway 9, and then they'd load it onto ships in the bay over there, and then they'd take them out. But there was all this up here. There was all this, during the roaring 20s and stuff. There was a bunch of gangs up here, and there was gangsters. There's always is, man. There's still gangsters up here. There's a couple of motorcycle gangs up here. There's gangsters up here, man. You believe that? But the point is that when alcohol was illegal, the Brookdale Lodge was a place. It was a speakeasy up in there. And they built it so that you guys are not going to believe this shit, man. They built it, and on one wall of the bar, you'd go in there as the bar, and then there was this room where all the tables were. And on one side, there was one wall, giant wall of glass. And it was the swimming pool. And they used to have girls in there swimming around inside the pool with numbers on their bathing suits. And dudes used to sit in this speakeasy and just go, yeah, send me number 17 or whatever. And then there's a hotel right there. So it was a whole thing.
Like lobster.
It's a whole thing going on up there, man. I'm telling you. And then, of course, after the alcohol prohibition, what was there? There was cannabis prohibition. And then that was just another key place in the growth of the cannabis industry is the Santa Cruz Mountains. You might say some of the best smoke ever developed came from here originally at some point. Like, for example, one of my friends, he won the Cannabis Cup for his Blueberry Crush. It was Kush. Blueberry Kush is what it was. That's right. So who knows, man? Who knows? I know this. It's the battlescape is the brain. And if you're talking brain, you got to go directly to Dr. James Giordano. He can throw a mean pizza, but he can scare the shit at you at the same time while he's making that pizza. If he gets 10 minutes, he gets your ear for 10 minutes, he's going to sell you on this, and he's selling it. He's selling it, ladies and gentlemen, to the military. He's saying what's possible. What's the potentialities? And I have a couple of chunks in here that I remember by heart. And when I dig out that pain in this presentation, you'll be tickled pink with what you hear.
Well, hello, everyone, and welcome to the U.S. Naval Academy in Annapolis, Maryland. I'm Jeff McCrease. I'm the Deputy Director of the James Stockdale Center for Ethical Leadership. And this is another installment in our series entitled Brain Science and Effective Leadership, made possible by the generous support of the Robert and Mary Looker Foundation. Today's program is being recorded and will be placed on the Stockdale Center's website.
Individual's reality. In other words, if I mess with your data, particularly your neuropsych data, I can really mess with the way people regard you and treat you on a whole host of levels, from the interpersonal all the way to the professional, from the social all the way to security clearances. And why is this so important? Because neuro is easy to get. A lot of the stuff we can get right off the shelf. There are also indeed dedicated efforts by a number of countries worldwide, inclusive of our transatlantic and trans-Pacific peer competitors. And there are independent actors who are working as proxies and or who are working as agents themselves to be able to utilize do-it-yourself forms of neuroscience within certain sovereignties that can affect military and intelligence operations domestically. I've given weapons, drugs.
Oh man, it's just too much. What do you think about Dr. James Giordano? He is Dr. Doom, isn't he?
That sounds like it.
Hold on, I'm trying to find this thing, man, because he talks about how he could create this whole idea just by by creating terror around something and then get people running scared to the hospitals and filling the hospitals up and all this. You know, it's because the way he drops the way he gets the information out there, there's people that you know, feel like they got sick or they're getting sick all the time already. So as soon as you start telling people here's the symptoms of this horrible thing, you know, there's a bunch of people who go, that's me, man. You know, because when you hear those symptoms and stuff, and when they go, these are the side effects or whatever, do you ever just go, wow, who knew? No wonder I've been feeling shitty.
Some strange disease. Yeah, that all this time it was something from sub-Saharan Africa, and I just thought it was the cold. You know,
that's crazy, man. So let me go back to yours now. Now, Dr. Rowe, you gave me the greatest hits, bold new neuroscience, brave new neuroethics. Is there any particular place you want me to drop in here on this discussion?
No, there's a lot of stuff that he's got. I just grabbed that. So.
All right, yeah. So let me just say, here, let me back this thing up, just like that song said.
We are. The mathematician and philosopher René Descartes posited, "I think, therefore I am." That the flip side of that coin, if you will, is really, how do I think? And if I can understand how I think, what does that tell me about not only who I am, but does that then allow me tools, perhaps?
Okay, see, 4 out of 5 people think Russian roulette is a great game, ladies and gentlemen. And let me just say, I just popped in right here at this place, exactly 6 minutes, and what do you know? We hit the jackpot. All of us together here on Aftermath FM. Monday through Friday, 10 o'clock Pacific.
To modify, modulate, direct, self-engineer who that who is. And what this allows us to do is it gives us the toolkit to be able to both assess and affect individuals and groups. And one of the key drivers of that is being able to assimilate, synthesize, and utilize in real and rapid time huge amounts of data. The tools of big data, integrated with the tools of artificial intelligence, have capabilized the brain sciences to a set of abilities, to a frontier of both probabilities and possibilities that just 10 to 15 years ago was almost unimaginable. Indeed, what we find now is that neuroscience fiction, non-fiction is becoming realized. Things that in the past seemed to only be the stuff of science fiction is now at our fingertips, is now a realistic both probability and ever more emerging possibilities as these techniques evolve and as those who use them understand that by bringing them together, we can open up a vista of things that we can do to assess and access and affect the brain. These include the use of gene editing techniques, probably most notable today, the use of CRISPR, Cas9 gene editing, gene scissoring techniques to be able to modify the genetics and genomics that contribute to the way our brain is structured and the way our brain functions. On the assessment side, more and more we're being able to utilize forms of neuroimaging to literally reconstruct the input to the brain that that individual was experiencing. In other words, as we see here in this slide, you can image my brain and from that image relatively reconstruct what I was seeing, what I was hearing, what I was feeling. And of course, we can put all of these together into new areas that allow the integration of assessment and intervention. Probably most notable among these has been some of the programs coming from the BRAIN Initiative, spearheaded here in the United States by the Defense Advanced Research Project Agency, DARPA. And probably the most exciting and cutting edge is one called N3, Next Generation Non-Invasive Neuromodulation. The capability to put vast arrays of sensing and transmitting electrodes deep within the brain in a non-invasive or minimally invasive way to allow real-time access to read from the living brain and right into the living brain remotely, through the cloud, through the web, via distance, across time. And then if we push the envelope a bit further, we begin to see the merger of those ideas that heretofore were thought as, well, perhaps impossible, but now made possible through the conjoinment of a variety of different neurosurgical, biological, biochemical, genetic techniques. Probably most avant-gardistic of that is some of the work of the neurosurgeon Sergio Canavero, the Italian neurosurgeon, who, building upon some of the prior work of Dr. Robert White, is attempting to complete the first human body-to-head transplant. Now, garish as that might sound, the motive is in fact benevolent. I had the opportunity to speak with Dr. Canavero on multiple occasions, and the low-hanging fruit here is the capability to essentially do good. Yeah, what do we mean by doing good? Well,
he's gonna make somebody walk again. Or
Jimmy, I think it was either the last show I played or maybe the one before that on Revolution Radio about a presentation on the technology that exists today, that they are able to put information into your brain while you're sleeping without you knowing it. So literally, if you'd never, let's say, flown a helicopter, they can now they can upload that information into your brain so that you go to sleep not knowing, you wake up knowing how to fly a helicopter. And you don't know how you would know that. They could teach you a new language overnight. They could teach you martial arts. You may not be physically fit but you would know the techniques. They can transfer feelings and things that other people can see into you without your knowledge while you're sleeping. That was the key thing that they were trying to emphasize. So you could wake up and just have these new thoughts.
It wouldn't surprise me in the slightest. I mean, the thing is just about, when you take a look at beamforming technology and you take a look at these, internet, transmitters that are in your house. I mean, so you can proximity detect precisely where your cell phone is.
And now imagine they're prepping everybody with this new modification that they're passing out. They're giving everybody. They want everybody to get this modification, right? That maybe it's going to react to a modulation of a certain frequency.
So I'm going to bring something up with you guys, and I don't know if either one of you have heard about this. And hopefully you have, and if you haven't, join me in a journey tonight to talk about it a little bit. Have you heard, people are just now starting to hear about the Internet of Things and the need for this 5G. Well, have either of you two heard of something called the Internet of Bio Nano things?
You mentioned it before. I haven't looked it up. It doesn't sound very enticing.
No. It's terrible.
Internet of Things is bad enough, I already have a problem with that. Amazon Sidewalk and all that kind of stuff.
Seriously, we're breaking it off here, here and now on Into the Microcosm. This is the Internet of Bio Nano things. Now, I found this a couple weeks ago. Now, there's something else. There's something else that's called IONT. Okay, that's something different. It's the same thing, but it's different. This is bio nano things, and the reason I'm bringing this to the table is because, we've talked about, Lieber on this show for the last couple years, talking about liquid computing and virus-sized transistors and all this stuff. Yeah. Well, and there's been a lot of speculation running around out there about this or that and what could or couldn't be or may not happen. So this, is from 2016. Just to kind of put it in perspective. It's in the microcosm. It's the
Hello everyone. Today we are going to talk about Internet of Bio Nano things. We all are pretty familiar with Internet of Things because it's been a trending research topic over the last decade, right? The very term IoT refers to connected devices which can collect and transmit data over the internet.
Hold on. I got to slow her down there. Hang on a second here. Playback speed. Let's drop her down a couple tones. What do you guys think? Could you understand her?
Chowdhury.
Like Minnie Mouse, yeah.
Alright, hang on a second. Playback.
Some sipsa, chowdhury.
I'm gonna drop her down 1.5. Here we go.
A good example would be Tesla's autopark feature. In order to expand the application,
Sounds like she went fast. She got some helium.
You go now. Yeah.
She got some helium. All right, here we go. Sorry, I was going the wrong direction, obviously. But this is, it's live, man. It's organic.
case of Internet of Things, Internet of Nano Things was introduced, which facilitated devices in the nanoscale to have network connectivity. But these devices, when deployed in the environment or inside the human body, can pose a serious threat because of their artificial nature and electromagnetic communication inside the biological system. So this led to the advent of another interesting research domain called the Internet of Bio Nano Things, which could mimic the functions of a biological cell and promised to serve all such applications in the biochemical domain by...
Okay, listen, I'm gonna draw. You guys got to see what I'm seeing. You can't see it, but if you could, you'd be blown away because I'm blown away by this, man, because we found it right now.
Are you looking at little cells and things?
Yeah. Hang on a second. So I haven't watched this video before. I've seen other presentations on this, and I just grabbed this right now because I wanted you guys to hear about this, and so I'd never seen this actual presentation. It's interesting. Hang on. I'm gonna drop it in for everybody to look at. You guys got to see this, man. Seriously, and there's like there's some sort of buckyball looking thing that's going down this tube. It's interesting, man. It looks like some tube that's been constructed from these buckyballs. It's interesting. Anyhow, can you stand listening to this voice or not? Let me see.
Yeah, I'm all right.
Are you guys all right with it? Because I don't want the audience to, go south on it because, sometimes a voice is everything. Here, let's try this. Let's try this one. Hang on a second.
Brilliant helps you see math in a new...
Nah, shit up. It's in the microcosm, middle of the night. We are introducing you to the Internet of Bio Nano Things.
The Internet of Nano Things is the interconnection of nano devices with existing networks. Now, taking this to the next level is a concept called the Internet of Bio Nano Things, which involves networking and communication to nanoscale.
All right, listen. There's a finger, okay, with a bunch of stuff on it, and some of it is so small I could see the ridges of the person's fingerprint, and these are really super tiny. So interesting. And what's even more interesting to me for some reason is that most of these two videos seem to be coming from the same place, Seems like this has been going on maybe in India for a bit, eh? Would you say?
This is 2016, yeah.
That's what I mean. So, okay, here, let me see. Hang on a second. All right, here. Let's quit dilly-dallying around with the second-hand team. Let's go rightly. Let's go to the source. This is all the way back in 2013. All right, 2013.
Good afternoon. I'm a research scientist at the Massachusetts Institute of Technology's Center for Bits and Atoms.
Hey, I just wanted to let everybody know, just in case you didn't, because it's the kind of thing we do here under the microcosm. It's like, do you a favor Monday. Did you know that DARPA has their own podcast?
Yeah, it's cool.
They do. That's right. So check that out, man, on the internet. You can find it on their DARPA podcast.
The name of the center is very provocative. And indeed, we do a lot of things with a lot of bits.